Scooby Doo is a franchise that has been around for 56 years. I have grown up with the shows, the movies, and I still very much enjoy these characters. And I'm not the target audience anymore, but I still have nostalgia for it. I've been watching whodunits that are for a more mature and older audience, and I loved and enjoyed those. So that kind of got me thinking and gave me inspiration for a redesign of Scooby Doo, but for the older fans. Generally, for these whodunits, their episodes are longer than 30 minutes. They let you get to know the suspects, you get to see the evidence as the characters come across it, and with an older audience, you don't need to hold our hand. Some of us want to figure it out before it's revealed, and some of us are just kind of there for the ride. So let us do that. And the last thing, it's a whodunit. It's part of the genre, usually for a murder to happen. Let the gang solve a murder. So I want to try to draw some of the things that I'll be talking about, like the welcome to the city sign, which you're seeing right now, 2 lineups of the characters, and I'll be showing some explorations I did after the fact, which poor planning. What I'm drawing right now is the welcome to the city sign of the gang's hometown, and I do take inspiration from the live action film. Now I would like to talk about the slight changes I would personally want to see for the gang. Let's start with Velma. The most recent example of Velma was from the Velma show, which from what the clips that I saw, I was not super happy. Personally, yes, I would still prefer Velma to be the smart and logical one, but I don't want her to be rude or mean. Like, if someone comes to the gang and they think they saw a ghost and they're quite scared and don't know what to do, I imagine that they were gonna console them, like calm them down, ask questions, go investigate, come back with whatever they found, and hopefully ease that person's worries or nerves. That's the Velma I need. I don't want her to be discouraging, especially if she personally just hasn't been presented or has seen evidence of whatever it is. So, for Scooby and Shaggy, they have been presented with extreme paranoia, I guess. They're constantly afraid, like, to such a heavy extent that it kind of comes off as like, why don't Velma, Freddy, and Daphne care that this is scaring them so badly? And I think the pendulum has swung too far into that direction that we got to bring it back. Yes, they're still the bait. They're still very athletic and really like food. Shaggy and Scooby will be scared because they're being chased by strangers who have very insane intentions. Especially because they're going to be dealing with murder now. They could still be scared of the villains, but I personally wouldn't want them to believe in ghosts or monsters, but I personally want to see how would that turn out with the character. For Freddy, I still imagine him to be the leader and to be the one who plans the traps. I would personally want him to be a little superstitious, and like he hopes they never find evidence of ghosts being real, and it makes him so nervous. He gets upset with himself that he believes in ghosts but he doesn't want to believe in ghosts, type of thing. And here I would like to mention things that the previous shows have. In the 13 Ghosts, Velma works for NASA and Freddy ends up being a mystery novelist. We should see more of that, like especially with this timeline. It could lead up to when the gang separates, Velma works for NASA, and Freddy becomes a mystery novelist. Let us see that. Maybe he writing ideas down and trying to do like the first few pages of his draft, and like maybe he gets critique from his friends, his best friends, obviously going to want to encourage him. And we should see Velma like inventing or building things. For Daphne, in the original show, she was quite clumsy and like a damsel in distress, constantly needing to be saved. I personally really liked in the live action movies, they let her defend herself. They had her like be badass. I still really like that for Daphne. So, and especially now that they're going to be dealing with murderers, someone needs to kick ass. She's still a fashionista though. She's still like, maybe her and Velma like talk and like help each other out with outfits. For Daphne, I also would have her believe in ghosts, and I wouldn't have her be too afraid of ghosts. She wants to prove that they exist, kind of thing. So, let's start with the timeline. The gang they're young adults. They have been solving mysteries for a good while. They're still a little clumsy about it. There's still things they have trouble with, that they struggle with. And we're gonna see in their hometown and the surrounding area of them solving mysteries and doing a pretty good job about it. Characters that would reappear, that have history with the gang, that the friends outside of the little group, their family, they're just their community. And if you ever watch Murder, She Wrote, I like the aspect of like the quirky characters Jessica Fletcher has in her hometown that know her and like are friends with her. At some point, I think it'd be great to reference the original show, and the gang will have to like build up some repertoire to start traveling the country and solving mysteries and like obtaining those jobs. I think a way to do that would be, let's say, again, Shaggy's the athletic one. He has, let's say he has an event that he's participating in, that maybe he's like a contest and he wants to win. His friends are obviously gonna go with him and cheer him on. They're gonna be supportive. And on their way to the event, they come across a few mysteries and solve them. And at first they're like, we were supposed to have like a little vacation so we can go support Shaggy, but here we are still finding mysteries to solve. And at the event, that there's like a lot of cameras, people from the news and like from the organization itself taking pictures and videos, that when like the crime happens, the mystery gang goes, well, we gotta solve the mystery so Shaggy can finish his event. And when they solve it, they're obviously gonna have like a lot of people there. One, praise them for solving them, helping them like continue and let the event happen. And with that, they would gain more opportunities across the country if it's like a big enough event. By the time they return home, they're obviously gonna go back to travel because they just gain more opportunities. And now we get a little bit of the original show of them traveling, solving mysteries, but eventually there's gonna be some tension. Specifically because, as I mentioned previously, the gang must separate. Velma, she obtains an opportunity to work at NASA. She wants to take it, but she doesn't want to leave her friends. She doesn't want to feel like she's abandoning her friends. And at first, she only tells Freddy, and Freddy's all for it, but says that she should tell the other gang, and like she's nervous. She doesn't want to hurt or disappoint her friends. But after that's resolved, the gang decides to like hang out and like be together as much as possible before she has to work for NASA. And Fred decides he's gonna stick by Velma. As he's seeing that she's gonna take an opportunity, he wants to take an opportunity too and work on his novel. So the gang separates. Obviously, they're a little sad, but they don't want to not let their friend take an opportunity that probably regret. Now, the speed drawing I did of the gang, I'm color picking. I should never do that. I didn't pay attention to their height differences that much, and it just looks awful. I don't like it. They look awkward posed. Maybe not Daphne, but everybody else looks a little awkward. But back to the gang. Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne are traveling, still solving mysteries, kind of like the 13 Ghost, but some of their mysteries do push towards like, oh, is this something of the supernatural? To me, I think it'd be cool to like reference natural phenomenons that are maybe not as well known by the public, and like explain why it might seem spooky or scary, but it's because science, and like they explain it. Now the gang is separated, right? Again, I need them to feel like friends. I need them to give each other life updates, tell each other I met new people and stuff like that. They need to feel like they're such close friends and that they feel weird not being like close to each other and being far away from each other for like the first time ever. At least what I think. Freddy and Velma are roommates, but I know some fans like to ship the characters together, but personally I do not care. I want them to be friends. They need to feel like friends. So Freddy and Velma are just friends, and I think it'd be cool to see, for at least the audience, not necessarily between the characters, to see Freddy and Velma every so often, even if like something short in the episode, to eventually show them have their own episode, because as they're just living this new life, they come across a mystery they need to solve, because they're the only ones with experience and who could do it in a quick way, and that kind of like makes them miss even more solving mysteries. So they go back and forth between, do I want to go back with my friends? Do I want to leave working for NASA? And this is where I'm a little conflicted. I don't know if I want Velma and Freddy to be the first to solve a murder, or if they communicate with Shaggy and Daphne and tell them they kind of want to join back with them to solve mysteries. So Shaggy and Daphne go back, and now that the gang's back together, they now have to solve a murder. Shaggy and Daphne should totally introduce Scrappy and Flim Flam to Velma and Freddy. I know part of the fandom, I don't know if it was because of the movies, don't really like Scrappy. I don't care. It makes sense for the timeline, and maybe if they just don't make Scrappy too obnoxious or annoying, which I don't think he was in the original media. So I would imagine Flim Flam being a little older. I don't want him to be like a child. They hire Flim Flam and they create Mystery Incorporated. And Flim Flam, maybe at first he kind of is an assistant, or he basically helps the gang organize and like tell them, oh, this job is here, this job is there, and like they relay updates to Flim Flam. And at some point they might get more workload that they wouldn't be able to do solve mysteries completely together as a group. They're gonna have to go into two groups instead of one, and maybe Flim Flam, that's where he will also have to join the field with like the smaller group. And as they gain a reputation, as they gain more notoriety, maybe they gain some awards and go to fancy events where they have to solve a mystery, they should be able to now reference the movies and travel outside of the country and solve mysteries elsewhere to manage if they get waves of new jobs. And obviously there's just a few people, it's going to be difficult for them to handle. And this is where I think it'd be great to introduce the other Hanna-Barbera mystery solvers. Okay, I remember 3 specific ones. I'm hoping there's only 3 specific ones. There's a mystery group where a talking shark. Personally, I think I would have them revolve around solving mysteries in water, pools, oceans, lakes, and ponds, but I don't know if that would be too limiting. There's another mystery solver group where they have a animated I don't remember if I ever heard the car talk, but it's an intelligent car. They can their mysteries can be more so technology based or human advancement or of some sort. And there's one more that I remember that I think would be fun and interesting. They have a ghost, and for when they're interviewing, I think that would be so interesting for Velma and Daphne, for the gang, to question what is he, is he truly a ghost, or if he's something else that we just don't have a name or a word to describe. And if he is a ghost, I think it'd be interesting for them to do cold cases. And if he isn't a ghost, maybe he could do the strange things that can't be explained, more so that needs science to explain it, or and they go in and soothe the worries of the people who hired them and tell them, oh, this is why, and like stuff like that. Now back to the drawing bit that I'm doing here. Freddy still looks odd to me. Daphne also looked a little odd, but Shaggy and Scooby ended up being the best ones. Velma, I'm a little more on the okay side for her. I don't mind the idea of Velma or anybody from the gang not being white or European. But again, I didn't explore their clothing or like their outfits. I kind of, in this instance, the second attempt, I did try to make Velma's skin slightly darker. More so because I kind of liked the her appearance in the Scoob movie. I don't know, I some parts of this work, but I think I did something wrong with the shading in some parts. Like, I think it's more noticeable with Daphne and Fred, but I'm way happier with this one than the first attempt. Here's poor planning on my part, because I ended up doing some explorations. Here's an example of that. Here are outfit explorations I did for Velma. They geared more towards vintage and more feminine. I imagine that Daphne kind of helps her with her outfits, and they both like strut around and are look nice. I did very few outfit explorations for Daphne, and I put her in this outfit I saw on Pinterest that had like ribbons on the on her gloves. It looks nice, but I wish I would have not just used her basic color palette. I also did some expressions, and if the characters were smiling, they looked nice, but when I did push them to like a different emotion, they looked weird. But there were some expressions I was happy with, like these. The scared ones, I did look at reference from the show whenever the gang was scared, and these are actually my favorite. I liked Shaggy and Scooby out of all the other ones I did, but Freddy kept just looking weird. I didn't know what I was doing, but I continued. Here's one of them interacting, which I love. I almost finished the drawing. I just left it in grayscale, and Scooby looks so cute. And I think it's a fan headcanon that Freddy is the one who makes the costume for Shaggy and Scooby to be bait, and Freddy ends up looking good here. He doesn't look weird or awkward, and probably because I'm having them interact, but it looks good. It looks I'm happier with this drawing. I wish the lineup would have turned out like this. Here's another drawing I did of them interacting, because again, it was mentioned in the show that Freddy wants to be Freddy becomes a mystery novelist, and here's the gang reading some rough drafts that Freddy has written, and obviously he's gonna be like nervous and try to like like stick around the gang while they're reading it, and Scooby's like, give them space, let them enjoy your work. Like if you're gonna mention something or like tell us that they would do this, like show us. Don't just off like a little mention and then never again. But I enjoyed it. I'm happy with these drawings. But yeah. I have this silly idea that it sparks joy in me, but I know parts of it are like pretty dumb, and maybe the ending result is dumb, but I'm still gonna talk about it. So imagine you're sitting down watching this hypothetical show with your friends or family, and before the culprit is revealed, the episode pauses and you're shown a line of suspects. And I imagine by this point, whoever you're watching it with, you guys start having a discussion, and you're relaying why you think it's a suspect, either based on vibes, based on stuff they said or did, and like knowledge you have of other stuff, and you guys come to one conclusion and decide finally, like, it's this suspect. but your choice does not affect the outcome of the episode. There is a right choice. There's a right culprit. And your choice becomes a stat. And that stat becomes important for the red herrings. So I did draw some suspects, and for Scooby Doo fans, you're going to recognize some of these suspects. So that stat being important for the red herring, mostly for bringing another that character back into like a different episode. And that aspect is interesting because that character tricked a significant amount of the fans or the audience. And I don't know, I think that'd be fun to like the audience choosing who gets to be brought back, not because they wanted to, but because they were tricked. I think that's silly and also kind of dumb. I don't think it makes sense, but it brings me some joy. And if any of you seen a pup named Scooby Doo, you're gonna recognize the bottom right character. That's Red Herring, at least my interpretation of him. He grew up with a gang. I'm pretty sure the show is also set in Coolsville. And he has beef with Fred. Fred always thinks it's him, but again, he's a red herring. He basically teaches the younger audience what a red herring is without ever like outright having a little speech about it or saying a definition or anything. He just plays his role, and that's how they learn. That is so fun. He needs to be brought back, and we could have variety of red herrings, especially really silly ones where maybe because of the personality or the way they carry themselves, they're just suspicious. And maybe there's like ones where like they're just at the wrong place at the wrong time and suddenly don't have alibis. Or there's just characters with really bad luck. I think that'd be fun interactions and silly. We need more variety in Scooby-Doo. And on a side tangent, the top middle character, he's a sheriff. He ended up, I unintentionally made him look like Sheriff Tupper. Sheriff Tupper is from the show Murder, She Wrote, and I really enjoy that show. It's not for everybody. It's an older whodunit. It's slower paced, and I love Jessica Fletcher. Usually Scooby-Doo has special guests, but Angela Lansbury wouldn't be able to reprise her role as she has sadly passed away. But imagine them having a reference or having other detectives, even fictional ones, and they visit Crystal Cove, which is where Jessica Fletcher lived. And on the topic of other detectives, Batman. Batman's such a fun character for the gang. And let's do something interesting. Let them meet Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne knows who they are, so let's say he invites them to like a gala or a fancy event just to have an alibi or have someone else solve whatever criminal is going to do something at his party. They've also met Superman. Let them meet Clark Kent. Let them interact with the investigative journalist. It makes sense. Let them... I want not just the superheroes. Let us see their other identities. And let's say the gang starts to put pieces together and they find out they found out their secret identity. Also, they had an episode with Wonder Woman, and she doesn't really have the roles or the associations of like investigative work or detective, but I think you can still do fun things with her if you do the aspect of like she's been around since World War I or maybe even later. I don't know. She's been around for a while. There would be evidence of her being alive and interacting and living, and like there's being photos of her during that era. And I think that'd be fun if like the gang has a cold case they need to solve. Either she lived through it and has to pretend to only being like a historian or an archaeologist and having knowledge of that event or the surrounding things around it. Like, I don't know, that'd be fun. She could be knowledgeable. Or she herself can be the mystery. Again, she has lived for a very long time. Have her be the mystery, and maybe after like a few episodes or multiple interactions, the gang start to like find evidence that someone has lived for a really long time, and when they put the puzzle pieces together, it's like, oh, it's Wonder Woman, it's Diana Prince. Like, I don't know, I think that'd be fun if she's the mystery. I did ended up going back and doing some quick drawings of Shaggy and Scooby, and also Daphne. I'll show you in a bit. Where I mentioned that it was for a more mature audience, and that kind of got me thinking. I kind of had the first two attempts be more cartoony, and that's not a bad thing. I still really like those drawings, but with a more mature audience, usually you go for something with more detail. And here's a headshot of Shaggy and Scooby. I do really enjoy how he turned out. I like my color choices, especially because I didn't color pick. Though I am sad that Scooby didn't turn out as cute. A different fur color could have helped. Also, his collar I made it bluer than it should have been. I don't know, I just have a lot of things. I don't even like how I shaded, like the shading I gave Scooby. I don't even like how that turned out. But for Daphne, I did one with her regular outfit, and another with I explored a bit with the second outfit, and I think I enjoyed the slight exploration I did with Daphne. I don't like her earrings though, but I do think they were successful explorations for me. I don't like them as much as how Shaggy turned out. Maybe because I didn't finish or like render it like how I did with Shaggy, but I still really like them. If I ever go back and revisit this idea, I think I would go for this type of style through the whole thing. But anyway, thank you for listening to my ramblings on a show I still feel nostalgic for. Bye.